Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So yesterday we saw how Duryodhana was scheming. He tapped his forehead with his fingertips as he thought how best to proceed. Then a plan began to form within his mind. So what was that plan? So that no one will suspect any foul play, I shall instruct my courtiers to describe the festival in Varanavarta all this week. This will arouse the brothers' interest. When they inquire about the festival, I shall suggest that they go there as my ambassadors. Duryodhana clasped his father's hand and kissed it. You won't regret this, father, I promise. The prince turned and left, followed by Shakuni. Once in his own quarters, Duryodhana summoned his trusted aide Purochana. Now, let's pause here. Today is a very special day, and this point here about the festival of Varanavarta is very relevant. We may wonder, how is it even possible that somebody as clever as the Pandavas, as intelligent as the Pandavas, as pious as the Pandavas, how can they be tricked into this? You know, being a devotee of the Lord is so different than being some self-willed demon who has their own agendas. Here, you know, it is said how Pandavas were, for days and days, they were talking about the glories and the festival and the village, and you know, they were attracted by the Lord's pastimes. And due to the Lord's pastimes, then listening to them, the Pandavas got attracted to go to Varanavarta. So today is also the auspicious appearance day of Srinivasa Acharya. So Srinivasa Acharya is one of the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates. Let me see if I can find a picture of Srinivasa Acharya. Yeah, here there is one picture. This is a very, very famous picture, which is not very common, but it's a very important picture actually. See this? This is a disciplic, it's coming. Disciplic succession. All the acharyas are there. These are the 6 Goswamis. So Srinivasa Acharya must be one among them here. Srinivasa Acharya. So I want to say a little something about Srinivasa Acharya today. Today is basically Srinivasa Acharya's appearance day. It's also the appearance day of Sri Sri Radha Ramanji deity. And it's also the appearance day of Madhavendra Puri. This is also like Madhavendra Puri comes just before this Lord Chaitanya line, because he connected Madhva Sampradaya with Lord Chaitanya Sampradaya. So, and then there it is, today is also the pastime of Krishna's like boat spring festival, the boat pastime festival. And because this is the time of the year when Krishna's flute was stolen and all this beautiful pastime occurred. So we'll touch gently upon certain points here. Okay. Srinivasa Acharya. Srinivasa Acharya is actually one of the most important personalities in our history of West Bengal, the devotional history or like religious history of West Bengal. And perhaps he's known to be the most important teacher in the generation that followed after Lord Chaitanya. And he's remembered as an illustrious disciple of Gopal Bhatta Goswami and Jiva Goswami. And his main service used to be delivering the writings of Goswamis from Vrindavan to Bengal. And then he also was known to have converted one very great king. His name was Birhambir, and he became a Vaishnava because of Srinivas Acharya's preaching. And very, very important part of this story is Srinivas Acharya's parents. Srinivas Acharya's parents were Brahmana Gangadhar Bhattacharya and his wife Lakshmi Priya, and they lived in a village called Chakandi. And this was on the banks of river in Bardhaman district here in West Bengal, where I live. And then these parents, they were childless. And Gangadhar was actually great devotee of Mahaprabhu, the golden incarnation. And he was worshipping Mahaprabhu very intently. And he used to hear Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes with the Lord's intimate associates, and he had this great desire to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But because of his social and familial obligations, he could not. So one day he resolved, because he could not tolerate the separation any longer. So around 1510, he resolved that he will set out. He went to Navadvip to see the Lord. And he just got till Katwa. Katwa is on the way to go to Navadvip. And he stopped in Katwa. And then he saw that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Nimai of Nadia, was on the way, on the very village, Katwa, and he was taking sannyas, the renounced order of life. And Gangadhar was shocked. What? Why must the Lord take renounced order? This austerity is for human beings so that they can overcome attachment of this world. Certainly there is no need for Nimai, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to go through this kind of life of a harsh ascetic sannyasi. Why? Of course, Gangadhar's emotions were mixed because he was going to see Lord Chaitanya face to face. And, although he was sad about Mahaprabhu's sannyas, he was excited to be able to meet Mahaprabhu. So what happens is very interesting. He basically gets so inspired by being around Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And although all the onlookers were just going crazy, no, please stop, please don't shave Nimai's beautiful locks of hair. Please don't touch Lord Chaitanya's hair. I mean, his name was Gauranga until then. And then the Keshava Bharati was the sannyas guru of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was also present there. And he renamed Gauranga as Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And all the devotees were just going completely bonkers. Again, went crazy. Beautiful Nimais taking sannyas. They couldn't believe their eyes, and tears were flowing incessantly. But the deed was done. And the barber who shaved the head of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his name was Madhu. So he actually fainted on the spot, and he said, how could I have done this? Chaitanya, Chaitanya. They were all screaming and shouting and chanting Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Gangadhar Bhattacharya himself was repeatedly crying out this name, and everybody was crying and weeping, and there were so many mixed emotions. And Gangadhar, in this way, chanting Chaitanya's names, he returned back to Chakandi, and he was half mad with ecstasy. And he told his wife what had just happened, and she also entered into ecstasy. So in this way, they were spending their time in Chakandi, and the whole village became absorbed in Lord Chaitanya's names, and everybody was like calling him Chaitanya Dasa. That's how the parents of Srinivas Acharya, his name was earlier Gangadhar Bhattacharya, and then he became Chaitanya Dasa because everybody saw how ecstatic he was about Lord Chaitanya. Then they finally meet Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. And when they meet Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has got a very special plan for them. Although they spend days in Mahaprabhu's association, worshipping him, surrendering to him, they never express their heart's desire. So one day they go to have darshan of Jagannath. And after having Jagannath's darshan, Mahaprabhu calls Govinda, his assistant, and says, although they never share directly to me, I know that they have a desire to have a son. They have a desire to have a child. They worshipped Jagannath, and that's what they asked. And I'm Jagannath directly, so I know what they were praying. So he said, very soon there will be a beautiful baby boy, and he will become very, very important in our sampradaya. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu basically blessed. And he also said that Rupa and Sanatan will be training him in Bhakti Shastras. And he also predicted that Srinivasa will distribute the scriptural message, Vedic message, everywhere in the world. And then that they should immediately return to Chakandi. So they went back, and then this beautiful baby boy, Srinivasa, was born. And he is known actually as 1/16th of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is known as Gaura Shakti, because this is the potency of Mahaprabhu, the Shakti of Mahaprabhu invested in this soul. And Lakshmi Priya's father, means Srinivasacharya's grandfather, was an astrologer. So he told the happy couple that this son was a Mahapurusha, a divinely empowered soul. He could see that through the astrological chart. So, and this boy was so gorgeous looking. He had broad chest, and he had long, elegant nose, his beautiful eyes extended like lotus petals. And just like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he also had a bodily luster resembling molten gold, and his arms were extended down to his knees. And according to the customs, Chaitanya Dasa and Lakshmi Priya, they gave charity to Brahmanas. And while growing up, Srinivasa's youth, he was constantly glorifying Lord Chaitanya. And the chanting of Kirtan made him so ecstatic. And there are so many references about how the goddess of education, Saraswati Devi, appeared to Srinivasa in a dream, and she told him that he will make a very amazing scholar in all areas of learning, especially the scriptures. So Srinivasa became known as Srinivasa became the disciple, like how do you call, student of Dhananjaya Vidya Vachaspati, who was the teacher of the village, and who used to say that I don't have anything to teach to Srinivas. He knows everything already. But still, Srinivasa was known in his youth as the favorite and celebrated, famous pupil of Dhananjaya Vidya Vachaspati, who's the whole village saw Srinivasa as a precious gem. And then he basically meets Narahari Sarkar Thakur, who was an intimate associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and who had pleased Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his humility. Because nobody else was allowed to glorify Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and only very few people, and Narahari Sarkar Thakur was one of them. So Srinivasacharya was very attracted to Narahari Sarkar Thakur, and he wanted to take shelter of him. And after meeting Narahari Sarkar Thakur, Srinivasacharya connected with his spiritual energies, and he started showing signs of ecstasy. And Narahari told Srinivasacharya to go to Puri immediately to see Lord Chaitanya. And yes, Srinivasacharya was seriously considering how to execute this instruction. But then, meanwhile, his father passed away from the mortal world after like 7 days of fever. And it was a shock for everybody in the family. And Srinivasa was trying to console his mother, etc. But then, meanwhile, in this time, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was preparing for his associates. He was telling Srinivasa will come, Srinivasa will come. And then he was telling the disciples, please, I want you to teach. He told specifically Gadadhar Pandit, please teach Srimad Bhagavatam to Srinivasa. So basically, Narahari Sarkar Thakur advised, you leave your mother here in Chakandi in the care of the brothers, and you go and you meet Puri. Go to Puri and meet Lord Chaitanya. But then by the time Srinivasa Thakur arrived to Jagannath Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already left his world along with Nityananda Prabhu, who had also passed away. And it was such a sad moment for Srinivasa because, it is what imagine not being able to meet Lord Chaitanya, and you're on the way and you figure out that Lord Chaitanya has left the world. So he was inconsolable. And then in the dream, Shopna Chale, on the pretext of a dream, it's also known as a spiritual vision. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually appeared. He appeared and instructed him to go and meet Gadadhar Pandit. So Srinivasa remained very grief-stricken. He went to Puri to try to get the Bhagavatam teaching from Gadadhar Pandit. And Gadadhar Pandit was so overwhelmed by separation of Lord Chaitanya that tears were flowing from his eyes so incessantly that the Srimad Bhagavatam that Gadadhar Pandit possessed became wet because of the tears that were flowing from his eyes. So there was nothing he could teach to Srinivasa. So Gadadhar Pandit said, there's another manuscript in Vrindavan. Please go and get it. So there's a whole leela of how Srinivasa touched the sacred book of Gadadhar into his head. And then he said, okay, I will go. Because the book is now illegible. So I have to go and get it from Vrindavan. So Gadadhar Pandit sent Srinivasa himself and told him to hurry. But somehow or another, Srinivasa was so excited to meet so many of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates. So he didn't know what would happen. So he delayed his whole journey. And he went to see so many devotees, Ramananda Raya and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Vakreshwar Pandit, Prataparudra, different people, Gopinath Acharya. And actually, by the time he came back, Gadadhar Pandit also had left the world. So, yeah, so like that, it's like, oof, he was going through so many situations like this. And then he was instructed again in the dream by Gadadhar Pandit that it's okay, no, Lord Chaitanya has instructed to teach you and it will happen. Don't worry, go to Vrindavan, and then there you will meet Rupa and Sanatan, and you can go and study under them. But as fate had it, actually Srinivas could not even meet them, because again he was delaying his journey and going and meeting so many other devotees that by the time he reached Vrindavan, he figured out that Rupa had left 4 months ago, because back then there was no WhatsApp or Facebook or Instagram to figure out news. Then 3 days before he arrived, also Sanatan Goswami had left the body. So like this, Srinivas Acharya's delayed, he delayed so much the journey that, but some people say that it was meant to happen because he was supposed to get initiated by Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And he was teaching the importance of pilgrimage and association of devotees, even at the cost of missing out, meeting the most important people or like that. And then he also, one of the very important people that he met was Vishnu Priya Devi. And she instructed him to rush to go to Vrindavan. And again, like his journey got, his journey got delayed. And then finally he had to lament that I had failed to meet Lord Chaitanya and to study Bhagavatam with Gadadhar, and now he had also failed to meet Rupa and Sanatan. So he was sitting under a tree wishing for his own death. And at that time, Rupa and Sanatan appeared to him on the pretext of a dream again and told him that, look, you're an embodiment of Lord Chaitanya's ecstasy, of Lord Chaitanya's love. And so they encouraged him to proceed further to Vrindavan and to take shelter of Gopal Bhatta Goswami and study under Jiva Goswami with all his life and soul. So anyway, those are like some of the remembrances of our great Acharya, Srinivas Acharya, who was also called by his disciples as Acharya Pad. Everybody would call him Acharya Pad. And very interestingly, today is also Radha Ramanji's appearance day, Radha Raman deity in Vrindavan. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disappearance, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who felt intense separation from the Lord, in order to relieve his devotee, the Lord instructed again Gopal Bhatta Prabhu in a dream, if you want to have my darshan, then make a trip to Nepal. So then in Nepal, Gopal Bhatta Goswami was like taking bath in the Kali Gandaki river, and he dipped in the water, and in the he had this water pot. So he was surprised to see that there were several Shaligram Shilas in that water pot. Then he immediately put back all the Shilas into the river. He went again and re-entered his pot to refill it. Again, the Shaligram Shilas entered. So for like this 3 times, he tried to put back the Shaligrams in the water, and the Shaligrams were entering. So finally, he realized that maybe it's Krishna's mercy and that he should keep the Shilas, and he wanted to return back to Vrindavan. So then Gopal Bhatta Goswami saw that there were 12 Shaligram Shilas. And then he would bring them every day. He'll bring like a piece of cloth tied to at the corner, and he'll put all the 8, and he will come to, and then he came to Vrindavan, and he was worshipping very sincerely. And then one day when wealthy man came, and he gave so many beautiful ornaments and clothes. But then Gopal Bhatta Goswami could not use them because the Shaligrams were round in shape, and you cannot decorate like, with clothes and jewelry for a deity like that. So he advised to the donor, go and give this deity to the decorations to somebody else. And that day he was really thinking of Nrsingadev, because it was just a day after Nrsingadev Chaturdashi, like today, one day after Nrsinga Chaturdashi, and he was thinking how the Lord manifested from the pillar. Vasavyati sarvatra tasmat stambena drishyate. He came out of the pillar. And in his transcendental meditation, he was lamenting to the Lord, oh, my dear Lord, you're so merciful, and always you fulfill the desires of your devotees. I wish to serve you in this form, where you have arms and legs and beautiful smiling face. I wish I could do that. I wish I could decorate you, so nicely with clothes and ornaments. So like this, he meditated, and then he went evening after offering evening artik and bhoga. He put the deities to sleep. He put the Shaligram to sleep. And then he went, covered them with a wicker basket. And later in the night, he went to take bath. And early morning, he went to bathe in the Yamuna river. Then when he came back and opened the Shaligrams in order to do puja, then amongst them, he saw a deity of Krishna playing the flute. And there were now only 11 Shilas and this deity. So that one particular Damodar Shila had manifested as a beautiful 3/4 bending form of Tribhanga Krishna. And then he immediately recited various prayers and hymns. And this wonderful event of appearance day of Sri Radharaman happened on the day after Nrsinga Chaturdashi. And it's celebrated like today in Vrindavan. They will be offering 500 liters of milk for the Lord's pleasure and many other sweets and different things today. And in Radharaman temple, it has the highest standard of deity worship. And it's called Radharamanji. Actually, there's no deity of Radha there, but they have a golden carving of Sri Radha's name, because the holy name is as good as the person itself. And Radharaman has very intricate features. He has even teeth, he has fingernails, very cute. And on the backside of his body parts, the original Saligram Shila can actually be seen, through which he manifested himself. So Prabhupada ji actually Prabhupada liked so much Radharaman temple. He used to go to the Radharaman temple many, many times, and he was very impressed by the deity worship there. And today is also the appearance day of Madhavendra Puri. And Madhavendra Puri is this picture was relevant even in that context. So let me put it back. I thought I'll show you a special picture of Madhavendra Puri, but this is relevant. So Madhavendra Puri, just a second. So Madhavendra Puri is said to be the sprout of the tree of devotion represented by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he comes from the Madhvacharya Sampradaya, and who belonged to the Dvaita school of philosophy. And Madhavendra Puri was an Acharya of the Madhva school, and he's considered to be like the connecting link between Madhva and Gaudiya Sampradayas. And this is accepted by both Madhvas as well as Gaudiyas. So once Madhavendra Puri, he traveled to Vrindavan, and he came upon a hill known as Govardhan, which is non-different than Krishna himself, the body of Krishna. And just by looking at Govardhan, he was maddened with ecstasy, and he was so ecstatic. So after circumambulating the Govardhan hill, Madhavendra Puri went to Govindakund. And Madhavendra Puri sat at the bank of, at the Govindakund bank. And then after taking a bath, he sat under the tree to take rest. And while he was sitting there was a little boy who came with a pot of milk. And then he placed it before Madhavendra Puri. So this little boy with a smile addressed Madhavendra Puri. He said, "Please drink this milk I have brought." And then he said, "Why don't you go and beg some food to eat? What kind of a mendicant are you, and what kind of meditation are you doing?" And when Madhavendra Puri saw that boy, he became so happy, so satisfied, hearing his sweet words, and he forgot his hunger and thirst. Madhavendra Puri said, "Who are you, my dear child? Who are you, my boy? Where do you reside? And how did you know that I was fasting?" And the boy replied, "Sir, I'm a cowherd boy and I reside in this village. In my village, no one fasts. In this village, a person can beg from other people and eat. And some people only drink milk. But if a person does not ask for any food, then I supply all the eatables." And then the women who come here also, they take water. And so they saw you here and they sent me to come to you. I must go very soon to milk the cows, but I shall return and take back the pot of milk from you. Saying this, the boy left and he could no longer be seen. And then after the drinking the milk, Madhavendra Puri washed the pot and put it aside. He looked towards the path where the boy had come, but he never returned. Then Madhavendra Puri sat under that tree and began to chant the holy names of the Lord. Then at the end of the night, he got a dream in which he saw the very same boy that he saw in the morning. And the boy came to him holding his hand and took him into the jungle. The boy was showing Madhavendra Puri the bush and said, "I reside in this bush. And because of this, I suffer very much from severe cold and rain and showers and wind and scorching heat. Please bring the people of the village and get them to take me out of this bush. And please situate me on top of this nice hill here. Or also please construct a temple for me on the hill and install me in that temple. After this, also please wash me with large quantities of cold water so that my body may be cleansed." Days and years passed by, and Madhavendra Puri was happily serving this Gopal, which he found in this bush. And he was feeding great feast to all the villagers. And this Gopal worship was going on amazingly. So one day he got a dream where Gopal said to him, "My temperature is still not reduced. Please go to Jagannath Puri and bring some sandalwood back for me. And please go quickly, since no one else can do it." And so Madhavendra Puri obviously started very immediately on the journey to Jagannath Puri. And then he came to Remuna, where Gopinath is situated. And there's a beautiful pastime of seeing Madhavendra Puri. The deity was happy, and then Madhavendra Puri was overwhelmed seeing the deity. And so Madhavendra Puri, in great love, he was singing and chanting the names of Gopinath. So Madhavendra Puri asked him, "What kind of food do you offer to Gopinath?" And then Gopalji, the priest of the Gopalji, offered kheer in 12 earthen pots. And because it tasted like nectar, it's called Amrita Keli, he explained. And then so Madhavendra Puri was thinking, "I wish I can also, taste this portion so I can prepare similar preparation for pleasure of Gopal." Then he thought, "Oh my God, what an offense I'm doing. How I can think of eating the food? It's not even offered. I am such a sinner." So he left the place and went away. And he was feeling very guilty and sitting in a marketplace, feeling, "What have I done? Why did I offend like this?" And then that night, the pujari got a dream of the deity saying, I've stolen a pot of kheer. Please go and find Madhavendra Puri and give it to him." And then he was like, "What?" And then in the morning he came and he looked actually that Gopal had stolen a pot and kept it behind him. And then so according to the dream, the priest actually went in the marketplace calling out, "Who is this sannyasi? Who is this sannyasi called Madhavendra Puri?" And so he found the sannyasi sitting there in the vacant marketplace. So he had this amazing story to tell him that, yesterday Gopinathji stole a pot of kheer to give to you. So he kept it behind the deity. "Here it is. Please take it." And Madhavendra Puri was so embarrassed and so touched, moved, and inspired. So it's an amazing Leela that also happened today, one day after Narsingha Chaturdashi. There is one more, there are two more Leelas that happened today. Today is also the beginning of the spring water pastimes between Krishna and the gopis. The ambience was amazing. The whole Vrindavan was bedecked with so many flowers and gemstones, and all the demigods were watching. This was the month where Krishna's flute was stolen, and all the pastimes were happening in Braj for the pleasure of all the gopis and pleasure of Radha and Krishna. And all the birds were like singing, and the peacocks were going Kiu, Kiu, and which Bengali is like, who is this? Who is this? So the peacocks were all dancing in ecstasy while there were amazing pastimes of Radha and Krishna happening in the Vrindavan forest. So, yeah, as we're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, as we're studying about the acharyas, it is so important to know that miracles do happen, and the Lord has his hand in our life. So as long as we want to hand over our life to Krishna, then we will learn to see Krishna's hand in our life. And we can see that through all the examples of Srinivas Acharya, Madhavendra Puri, and other great Vaishnavas who come in the parampara of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I have to give class in the temple today about these amazing leelas that happened today as well. So thank you very much for your attention, and may the blessings and mercy of Lord Chaitanya be upon us. May we be empowered like Srinivas Acharya to be an instrument in the Lord's mercy, in the Lord's service. And just like Madhavendra Puri, may our faith in the Lord be strong, and may we always be engaged in devotional service. Have a fantastic day. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. Amazing, amazing Leelas we put here today.
Amazing, right? True. Jai.
Jai.
Thank you.